Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. I just scored this guy just recently actually. Well, I guess I shouldn't say this guy, these guys. But I was just recently able to score these at Target. The employee that I asked to get them for me, because of course they weren't on the shelf, was fairly rude, did not want to do it, but eventually she did, and here we are now. And I must say, honestly, at first glance, I actually like this a lot more than I was expecting to. I was a little let down originally simply because of the fact that they did not resculpt anything, and I really wanted them to resculpt the neck and the head a little bit to look more like the Bull Rex. They chose not to, but honestly, when I see it in person, I'm not so let down. It really looks much better than I expected, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at the box. As you can see, we've got Tyrannosaurus Rex down there, and of course a picture of the actual Rex, or an actual Rex anyway, which would be Rexy, or Roberta, whatever you want to call her. And then you get a shot here of the Extreme Chompin' Bull Rex on the back, and the infant that it has with it, and of course a picture here of the two upcoming story packs with the Velociraptors and Muldoon and Alan Grant, and that's pretty much all the box has to offer, so let's go ahead and get them out of the box. Now, for any of you that may actually have not purchased one of the Extreme Chompin' T-Rex figures quite yet, you actually have to connect the tail, so it comes disconnected, and you just snap it into place. So there is your Extreme Chompin' Tyrannosaurus Bull Rex, and I must say that it definitely looks really quite nice, actually much better than I was expecting it to look. In person, it really is not a bad looking figure, even without the resculpting being done. But one thing that I can say right off the bat is, of course, Mattel did not include this dark black paint they have up here on the back down onto the tail, because why would they? For some reason, Mattel, as you can actually see here with the infant as well, they really hate to include paint on the tails. And we have gotten that on a few figures, but not very many so far as this line goes. They really try their best to skimp out on that area as far as the paint. And I really don't know why, unless it's just to save a few bucks. But if that's the case, it's a pretty poor, lazy attempt on the part of Mattel to not include any paint in that area. However, it does still look much nicer than I expected, so that is a plus, even though there is a current downside right off the bat to the figure. One other thing that may be a downside for some, although I don't really consider it too big of a downside, is that you don't get a card with the Bull Rex like you do with a lot of the other newer Dino Rivals figures, and you actually don't get a card with the Albertosaurus either, which is also a letdown when it comes to that figure. If you don't mind the cards, and you don't mind the fact that this thing is missing paint on the tail, then let's go ahead and get a closer look. Now, of course, if the sculpts of these figures look familiar to you, it's because we have already received them previously. There was a standalone release for the infant Juvenile here Rex, so we have reviewed the sculpt before. So there's no real need to review the sculpt again, and if you would like to see the review of the original, I will throw a link in the description for you to check out. But as always, the action features are the same. You just push the tail down, and it makes the mouth chomp. And I will say that this one is actually much better than my previous one, because the other one that I had kind of a gap here where the lower jaw connects, and when I closed the mouth and left it open still, actually, you could see a pretty bad underbite. And this one does not have that problem. When I actually complained about that in my video, a few people stated that theirs also did not have that problem, so it might have been just an issue with mine. And I am very happy now to have one that actually works quite perfectly when it comes to the jaw. It definitely looks really nice and works beautifully. As far as the paint goes, they're pretty much just different shades of coloration compared to the original. The original was a little bit darker, I believe. I don't have that one on hand right now, but I don't really need to take a look at it right now. As I said, if you do want to see the difference in coloration, just click the link in the description to watch the review of the previous Juvenile Rex. But overall, it's basically like this light green, almost like a lime green, and then a darker, like dark grayish type of a coloration that runs all over, has kind of splotchy paint pretty much all over the place. And then we get to the tail down here. Of course, the tail does not include any paint whatsoever, aside from the original body color, that is. And you can see that it actually does have some speckles of black here and there, which is one thing that Mattel has definitely been a pretty big fan of doing, as far as including splotches and little speckles of coloration on their figures, which I do like. I think it does give it a little bit of variation of color. makes it have a little bit more of a realistic look without including too much actual paint to it. And the nails, of course, are not painted. They look like they might be glossed a little, but there's no different coloration of paint compared to the rest of the body. The inside of the mouth is a pretty nice pinkish type of a coloration, pretty realistic looking coloration, has a nice gloss to it as well. Teeth look like they're painted okay. Of course, the teeth are all bunched together, so it's not going to look beautifully perfect, but they do look half decent. There's a little sloppiness, but nothing to really complain about. The eyes also look to be painted really nicely. They are yellow with a black pupil, and I do like the coloration around the eyes. I like that they've made that a little bit of a darker coloration to really make the eyes pop to you. And overall, I really do dig the sculpt. I definitely like the sculpt a lot, as I mentioned previously. It really reminds me a lot of the Kenner figure, which looked heavily like the actual Juvenile Rex from the Lost World, so that must mean that this one in turn also really looks like the Juvenile Rex from the Lost World. I do personally prefer Kenner's figure over the Mattel one, but the Mattel one is also really quite nice. And now for the star of the show, the one that we're all waiting for, and that is the Bull Rex. And as I said before, the sculpt of this is for the Extreme Chompin' T-Rex. So we have already received this Rex a number of times previously, but this is just basically for the new paint job. And one thing that is a plus is anyone that may have the older Extreme Chompin' Rex without the updated facial sculpt, this is definitely one of the newer ones, and you can see as I get closer here, you can really see all the beautiful fine detail that they did add on after the initial release. They did go back, retool it a little bit, and add in some extra fine detail, some very small scaling and stuff. And this is definitely one of those. It looks really, really nice, and I'm happy to finally have one of the newer updated sculpts of this figure. Of course, I do intend on getting one of the actual brown Extreme Chompin' Rexes with the updated sculpt as well. And another way you can tell it's the updated sculpt is, of course, when you do open the mouth for the Extreme Chompin' feature, the tongue is down. It's not sticking straight out like the Rex is some kind of lunatic. So again, another definite plus is that the tongue is fixed on this one. And the inside of the mouth is really quite nicely sculpted and painted. A beautiful gloss has been included on both the teeth and the inside of the mouth. This, for some reason, wasn't given an updated sculpt as far as the tongue, which a lot of newer Dino Rival figures seem to have a beautifully detailed tongue. This one does not. It's exactly the same as the updated Extreme Chompin' Rex sculpt, because they did not update the tongue or anything else, but overall it does still look really quite nice. The eyes are also painted really nicely. There's no sloppiness to them. They both look beautiful, and I really do quite like the green that they used. I think it's very, very similar to the green on the actual Rex from the Lost World, so the choice of green is much better than I was expecting. If you saw some of the prototype images, it really looked like it was kind of a lighter green and more bright, but in person it is actually much darker and much nicer than those prototype images led me to believe. So that is a plus. It does have a very dark and very beautiful look to it. And of course it does have the black paint that is pretty much all over it, and it is really nicely applied, very naturally applied, and it does look good. Of course the paint scheme overall does not look exactly like the Bull Rex from the film, as there would be a lot more yellows involved and some variations of greens and such. But it does still look really quite nice for being a mass-produced toy. You're probably not going to find too much better as far as a nice green Rex goes, unless you go back to the old Kenner one, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. But that's not to sell this one short, because this one does also look really, really nice, and it is probably the closest thing to an actual screen-correct type sculpt to the Jurassic Park T-Rex, just maybe not so much for the Bull Rex. I think at least the old Kenner one did have the neck resculpted and the head resculpted to actually look like the Bull Rex, so that is a plus for the old Kenner version. And I again do like the Kenner more so than this, but this one is still really, really quite nice. And the underside just basically has a like a white for the jaw, and then it turns into like a creamy yellowish type of a color for the underside that runs down to about here, and then it just ends, because again, Mattel hates to put paint on the tail other than the original body color. And anybody that is interested, there is the Jurassic Facts app code, and here is the Jurassic Facts app code for the Juvenile as well. Again, we have, like I've mentioned numerous times, reviewed the sculpts of these before. We've already measured them and all that, but I will measure them again right here for you guys in case you aren't going to go back and watch the previous reviews, even though I definitely suggest you do if you want a more detailed review of the actual sculpt of the dinosaur. But for the Juvenile Rex, for a length, you are looking at about a little over 6.5, almost 6 3/4 inches, or about 17 centimeters. And for a height, he's a little under 4 inches, or a little bit under 10 centimeters. And for the adult male, which some people are claiming this is actually supposed to be a female, but that was just basically an oversight on the part of Mattel when it comes to the description. They just completely screwed up the description, claiming that it is a mother. It is not a mother. I don't care what anyone says. It is quite obviously a male. There has never been a green female Rex in any of the films. There have only ever been green male Rexes, so it is quite certainly the bull Rex and not a female Rex, regardless of Mattel's incorrect description. Mattel continuously seems to be screwing up the descriptions of their figures. If you take a look at the description of the upcoming Indominus Rex, they have that description mixed all up with the Indoraptor, so somebody, whoever is writing those descriptions for Mattel, might want to rethink their job, or maybe take it a little more seriously and actually do the research required to update a correct description, because so far they're doing a pretty bad job. But on a length of the Rex, you are looking at about, tail out here, about 19.25 inches long, or about 49 centimeters for a length. And for a height, and this is of course really up to you, I like to have mine in the natural position that it would normally look in the film, but you can stand it up taller. But at this point, you are looking at about a little over 7 inches, or about a little over 18 centimeters. And just in case you are interested for a size comparison, there is our buddy Mr. Papo Rex, who is much smaller than the Extreme Chompin' Rex from Mattel. You can see that he is quite obviously a much smaller version, but in a way you can almost make this the juvenile and this a little bit of an older juvenile, and then of course the adult here. And if you have one of the brown Rexes, you can of course make the other brown Rex the female, the mother. So you could have a nice little Rex family if you do happen to own one of those Papo Tyrannosaurus Rex figures. So this Rex is definitely pretty darn nice. I really quite like him. Of course, we could have gotten better from Mattel if Mattel would have gone through the extra trouble of sculpting the head and sculpting the neck to look more so like the actual Bull Rex. I would have preferred it much more to this, but that is again not to say that this is a bad figure, because it is not at all. In a world where we actually got a green Rex from Mattel, I shouldn't be complaining at all, because it's super exciting in general just to have one, and I really do like him quite a lot. He is very, very beautiful looking and has a great, very striking paint scheme to him, and it's always really, really cool to revisit your youth and jump back to the Lost World with this figure set of the adult and juvenile together here for us to enjoy. So I really do like it. The adult does have painted nails, which is a plus, and of course does not have painted nails on the hand. He only has painted nails on the feet, and for some reason, if you can see here, they also did skimp out as far as the dew claw paint. So at the same time that this is a very, very cool release, there is quite a bit of laziness on the part of Mattel when it comes to some things that could have been a little better. I, of course, always wish they would include more paint as far as the nails go, and just in general, I feel like Kenner really included a lot more paint on some of their figures than Mattel does, but Mattel does at least have much more film-accurate sculpts than Kenner did, so really they're both absolute wins, but there are some things that I think could have been done a little bit better with this set than what we got. It is, as I mentioned numerous times, however, still an absolutely beautiful set, and I really do recommend it. It's very cool to get the adult and juvenile together in one set, and I really love the fact that they've done that, and I love the fact in general that they did jump back to the Lost World and give us a very nostalgic set here with these two together. So if you do want to buy these guys, unfortunately they are not on the Target website quite yet. Hopefully they will be soon. But if you can get around to actually heading over to Target right now and checking them out, seeing if you can find them this week only. I don't know how long, if it's going to go past this week. I think it's only for this week, but they actually have a 20% off sale, so you could score this Rex with the infant for I think $23.99 if you do go sometime this week to try to acquire this and any of the other new Dino Rivals figures that are currently out. I actually just got this one a few days ago, and it was actually $23.99, so I got a pretty good deal on it, and I was super excited about that. So there's no time as good as the present to go try to pick up some Jurassic World Dino Rivals figures from your local Target if you do have one near you. Like I said, definitely a recommended set, so go ahead, happy hunting guys, hopefully you find one in Target, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.